Arian went into the Pearl Palace, and Hira immediately spotted her. The older woman charged at her with words. "You bitch, get out! Get the hell out of my home! You killed my son!" she shouted. Arian stood stationary. It was the coat she sent Laura that killed Elliot, and her feet grew cold. When she heard the news, she could not believe it. "You bitch, you bitch! I hate you!" Hira's raw voice shrieked. Her son lay in wait to be cremated at sunset, as was done for all royal family members. Giroux and his mother, Elena, reached the Pearl Palace and only heard Hira shout the last part to someone unknown to them. When the two entered, they were surprised the person receiving the insults was none other than the Empress. "I hate you, get the hell out!" Hira shouted. "Lady Hira, show some dignity for Elliot's sake," Elena counseled her. Arian's features turned deathly pale, and Hira walked away, trying with all her might to compose herself. "We have come to offer our deepest condolences, my lady," Giroux said. Quick footsteps could be heard from outside the room, and the doors violently flew open, bringing in Tedric. He was sent the missive yesterday when Elliot died. He was dusty from his travel, which meant he started off immediately when he received the news and on horseback. Tedric ignored everyone in the room, his mind focused only on the body, now shrouded in white cloth. He staggered and went to kneel at his dead young brother's side and began to cry loudly. The room was silent as Tedric cried for his brother until he finished. Turning to Giroux, "Who did this?" he asked silently. "They haven't found the person yet, but I have put the best minds on this. We will have justice, brother. Do not fear. I will personally kill the person who did this to Elliot," Giroux vowed, and only Hira noticed Arian blanch. "I am going to see how far they've gone with the investigation." Tedric kissed his mother's forehead and gave her hand a squeeze before bowing to the Dowager Empress and Empress. "Why were you attacking Her Majesty, Hira?" Elena asked. Hira looked at the fearful-looking Empress. "I did not want company, but Her Majesty had insisted on it." Arian relaxed a little when she heard Hira's bogus excuse. "Lady Hira is very grieved, Your Majesty," Arian whispered in a low voice. "Maybe we must leave Hira alone for a while. This news is hard to process," Elena said. Hira nodded. With her eyes red and tear-rimmed, she extended her hands to Arian, who walked into them. She said loudly to her, "Pardon my rudeness, Your Majesty, please forgive me." Hira then added in a low voice while she kissed Arian's cheek, "I own you now," and then pulled back. Arian pulled back, eyes wide open in shock and fear, wondering what she had gotten herself into. Imperial soldiers stormed into the Webb Mercantile and looked around. Anya and Marjorie looked at each other in surprise. "Excuse me, can we help you with something?" Marjorie asked the soldier who looked to be in charge. Right before he answered, a soldier called from a part of the shop, roughly yanking the bolt of expensive embroidered silk from where it was carefully placed. The lead soldier looked over at it and nodded. Looking between Anya and Marjorie, "Who owns this mercantile?" "I do," both sisters said at the same time. Marjorie gave Anya a look, telling her to retract her statement. Anya stubbornly looked away, facing the Imperial officer. She could sense trouble, and was not letting Marjorie go through this alone. Tanner walked into the store. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, looking at the officer. "This store is the only one that has been found to sell this type of silk," the officer said. The sisters looked at each other. They drove a good bargain to get the quality material in their store. "That cannot surely be a crime, officer," Tanner said. "No, it is not. But this same type of fabric was used to assassinate a member of the imperial family," he said, and motioned for the guards to take the two women away. Anya's heart dropped. "Who died?" she asked. The officer ignored her, and Marjorie was giving Tanner instructions about the shop and their son. "Who died?" Anya asked again. The question fell on deaf ears as they were being led out. A guard put a hand on her shoulder, and she shook it off. "Officer, I am Anya Webb, Duchess of Pinehaven. I demand to be treated with respect and an answer, or His Majesty will hear about this," she finally threatened, and the guards looked to their superior officer. He knew of Anya, the Emperor's former lover, everyone did, but he did not think it was the green-eyed beauty in the store. "His Highness Prince Elliot was assassinated yesterday in the morning. His coat was poisoned, and your store happens to be the only one which has this fabric," he explained finally. Tears fell from Anya's eyes involuntarily. Why would anyone want to kill Elliot? He was a kind, beloved, and sometimes cheeky man. "We will willingly go with you to aid the investigation. Just let us ride our own horses," Marjorie said. Tanner had gotten Marjorie's instructions and even taken the other material in storage and handed it to the guards. "This is all there is," he said seriously, and kissed his wife's forehead. "Everything will be fine," he whispered to her. The officer agreed for the women to ride their own horses, and they were taken to the palace prison and held under arrest. Giroux was looking outside the window when his brother walked in. "They have caught 2 suspects, Tedric said. "The last 24 hours had been hard. They cremated Elliot, and his ashes lie in the Pearl Palace. Good, I hope they will face justice. What evidence was gathered on them? Tedric looked away. I don't think it was them. The evidence is very weak. Why don't you think so? Because it is your former lover, Anya, and the only evidence is that they stock the same fabric. Anyone could have walked in and bought it. Giroux had looked up sharply when he heard Anya's name. Why are you sure she did not do it? Tedric gave Giroux a look. You too do not believe it. Anya had no quarrel with Elliot. Because it was not Elliot they were aiming to kill, Laura said, startling the young man before Sorel announced her. He thought she remained outside waiting and had not followed him closely and stealthily. Madame Laura is here, Sorel said, giving the woman a nasty look. Why would you say that? Tedric asked her. Because they sent those presents to me. I told Elliot to pick whatever he wanted, she said, biting her jaw hard to prevent herself from crying. Then she shrugged. He was whining that he only got a pat on the back from his mother. They all made a sound, very much like Elliot, always trying to get the best after minimum effort. Then you must give us a list of your enemies. Laura looked away and with a dry smile added, Urani make enemies with people wherever we go because we speak our minds. Anya and Marjorie did not kill Elliot, and to use fabric which only they stock, they are more intelligent than that. She took out a list of names on a paper. Those are names of possible suspects I know to hold a grudge against me. Tedric and Giroux looked over it. The first name on it was Arian. Giroux held the paper up. Is this a joke? I gave you a list of my enemies in Dunbria, and would never ever joke about Elliot's death, Your Majesty, she said, her voice choking. Their unspoken private relationship was known to both brothers. Her Majesty recently asked me to remove Anya from the list of fabric suppliers to the Imperial Arts, and if you check here as well, Anya was removed from the palace suppliers. Now I'm not saying the Empress did do it, I'm just saying she seems to hate Anya. Giroux looked at Laura. I will forget you added her name. The others, I will have someone make a follow-up, he said. The memory that flashed in his mind is of Hera yelling at Arian. He tried to shake it off and did so unsuccessfully, but he could not add his wife to be investigated in such a manner. Hera's dislike for Anya was not a secret and well known, so he would not be surprised, but Arian? The look that crossed Laura's eyes was one of telling him not to even bother if Arian was going to be left out. Will my niece and her sister be released then, sire? She asked. Yes, if there is no evidence of them murdering Elliot, then they will be released. Laura bowed. Thank you, sire, she murmured, and left. When Anya and Marjorie were released, they found 3 familiar faces, Tanner, Laura, and Rolf. Laura rushed and embraced Anya, the first embrace the two had ever shared. Anya, after a moment's hesitation, embraced her back. I was with His Majesty this morning asking for your release. He took his time, Laura commented, looking at Rolf. Let me take you ladies home, Tanner said, embracing his wife, then Anya. Thank you, Tanner, but I just want to go home to my own bath and bed, Anya said. I can offer you escort, Rolf suggested to Anya. Laura was about to say something. Laura, why don't you join Tanner and I for lunch? Marjorie devised. It was obvious the magistrate is very interested in Anya, and Laura could be a hindrance. Laura bit her tongue, but she can see what Marjorie is trying to do, though she silently disagreed. Anya was not over His Majesty yet. They all got on their horses, but Anya and Rolf broke off in the direction of her manor. They ride in silence until Anya broke it. It was not necessary for you to do this, Anya said. Rolf brushed it off. It is my pleasure, and besides, how else do I get to spend time with you? I hope your time in the jail cell was not too harsh. Anya shook her head. It was for only a day. The food was atrocious, but it is something that can be easily forgotten with a few good meals I'm planning on having. They continued to ride in silence until they reached Pinehaven Manor. When Anya got down, she looked at her companion. Aren't you coming in, Rolf? He refused her offer. I still have much to do. He paused and looked away, then back at her, his breath momentarily taken away by her beauty. She has dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep, but still undiminished in looks. If you do not mind, Anya, I would like to join you for dinner sometime, he said, feeling unsure of himself. It hadn't been long since Anya ended things with His Majesty, and he isn't sure how deep the affection was between the two. However, what he knew is that there was heavy passion between them, as he saw for himself that fateful day in His Majesty's office. That's fine. Will tomorrow be all right with you? Anya inquired. She has been suspecting Rolf to have interest, so maybe this will be a good thing. As her mother always said, never give up on something until you have tried it. Rolf's face instantly brightened. This is the first positive news he had received concerning his feelings for Anya. His family were finally starting to soften after she was given a title, something that is higher than his own father's title of Earl, which his elder brother will inherit. Should Rolf marry Anya, he will automatically become a duke and own all of Anya's lands. His family were willing to overlook the fact that she is a soiled woman. I will be here at sunset then, he said, and turned his horse away. An arrow flew and shot the bullseye of the target. A resounding sound of admiration passed across, while a servant removed the successful arrow from the target. Aenor had a self-satisfied smirk on her lips. She had been shooting a bow since she was a little girl with her brothers. I hope to be as good as you one day, Lady Aenor, Miriam, a lady-in-waiting, said with praise. I have been shooting bow and arrow since I was a little girl. This skill takes years of cultivation, Aenor said proudly. Anya was released from prison. Yvetta brought up the topic. She was surprised when she heard her old maid was arrested. Aenor side-eyed her. I thought you will be the one to rush and beg for her release, but it seemed the evidence was not enough, and any person with a brain would have concluded that she was not the one who did it. Who do you think did it? Anila asked, knowing Aenor has already come to a conclusion, which might be correct. Our Empress cut off the Webb sisters from trading with the palace. A slow smile appeared on her face. How is that connected to Elliot's death? Yvetta asked. Lucia. Aenor turns to Ava's maid. Tell them what you told Ava and I earlier. Lucia steps forward happily. My brother is Madame Laura's secretary, and he said a few weeks ago, Her Majesty sent a letter to command the Imperial Arts to stop trading with the Webbs. The Urani woman went to answer Her Majesty personally, and rebuffed her request, threatening to tell His Majesty that she was intruding. She figuratively sent Her Majesty to the devil with her request. Some jaws of the other concubines drop. She did that to Arian? Anila whistles, impressed. Everyone in the harem apart from the two dowagers and His Majesty walk around on eggshells with her. Exactly. Now before you say what is the connection, that happened the day before Elliot was murdered. Aenor turns to Lucia to continue. The coat His Highness Prince Elliot was wearing was a gift for Madame Laura. She asked him to pick whatever he wanted, and unfortunately it was the coat, she finished grimly. People love the Urani woman. She is efficient and minds her own business. The only person she has had an argument with is the Empress. She did it, Aenor concludes. There is a look of surprise on every concubine's face. Before any of them could utter any word, a commotion is seen at Aenor's palace entrance, and the guard announces Her Majesty's arrival. All the ladies bow to the Empress, and she had a smug look on her face, enjoying the respect she received. What do I owe this visit, Your Majesty? Aenor asked, her head still lowered. Arian enjoyed it, particularly if Aenor bowed. Now the remaining satisfaction was the Emperor's former lover to bow to her. Even when she cut off their business to the Marble Palace, she went silently, not throwing any tantrum or asking for the Emperor's audience. She still remained elusive. You are still doing things forbidden by His Majesty? The Empress asked. Aenor almost rolled her eyes. Arian loves to flex her authority. I didn't know archery was forbidden in the Marble Palace. No, but holding court when you are not the Empress is, she said. All the ladies seemed to be drawn to Aenor than to her. The Grand Concubine looked around. You are mistaken, my Empress. This is just a meeting of sisters to talk. Arian sits down slowly and arranged her robes neatly. About what exactly? About Lady Anya's arrest and release. Tell us, Your Majesty, who do you think killed His Highness Prince Elliot? Aenor asked, some of the concubines exchanging a look. Not long ago she was just from accusing Her Majesty of murder. Arian straightened her neck, convincing herself that the note of mockery in Aenor's voice was imaginary. The authorities are still investigating that. I'm sure it was a fan. Lilla's eyebrows raise. A fan of His Highness? I am not sure if many knew that the prince was the deputy director at the Imperial Arts. Arian turned irritable. It seems you have all come up with a conclusion as to who did it. Please educate me. There was silence, and Aenor picks up an arrow then loads it, raising it high and releasing it to hit the bullseye again. She slowly lowered it, knowing full well even Arian was waiting for her response. She almost bursts into laughter. Arian is no Empress waits for a concubine. Those pesky purists. They despise how Dunbria is becoming a hot pot of many different tribes, all now being called Dune. Madame Laura is Urani. They could have wanted to get rid of her. Aenor looked Arian straight in her eyes as she gave her answer. Though Arian was relieved, she could still sense a deliberate note of disrespect. A possible theory. She stood. Well, as Empress, I have many things to do and can't laze about like the rest of you. I just came to remind you that, as of now, the Imperial Nursery still only has 2 daughters. Let's be vigilant, ladies. His Majesty needs an imperial heir. The ladies all bow at her words. Thank you for your gracious words, Your Majesty, Aenor said, and Arian left. When the Empress left, Lady Marian asked, do you really think she did it, Lady Aenor? Of course, and I would take her words to heart if I was any of you, well apart for Lilla and Anila. Get pregnant soon or else you might be facing a demotion. She has the power to do that, you know. Aenor put the bow and arrow down to pour some tea. Ava pouted. Why do you have to say such horrid things, Your Highness? Because as your superior, it would be amiss of me not to. Mariam listened carefully to Aenor's words and knew exactly what she is going to do. She has not seen her period for the last 2 months. The royal physician said the announcement should be done only in the 3rd month, which is 2 weeks away. Her pregnancy will mean an instant promotion, and she did not want just regular concubine but grand concubine, or even imperial concubine. The Dowager Empress was moving in her sedan in the Marble Palace inner palace, and spotted a carriage, slowly moving towards her in the opposite direction. The vehicle came to an immediate stop. The Countess of Penfield, Glenna Haltom, mother to the Empress, comes out and bowed. "Rise, Lady Penfield," Elena said, and the look on Glenna's face was comical. "Is something amiss? I was told my daughter was with the Dowager, hence I couldn't see." She pauses and with a flattering smile bowed, realizing her daughter has taken a liking to her mother-in-law's enemy. "You were saying?" the Dowager asked. "I'm sure my daughter is still trying to get her bearings as Empress, and trying to learn as much as possible from the 2 Dowagers. Of course what she is learning from you is much valuable. Her entertaining the Dowager concubine is mere kindness, and trying to maintain peace in the harem." "I wasn't aware the harem was at war," Elena lazily said. Arian's mother was a sharp woman who seems to come up with excuses for her wayward daughter. "Of course it isn't, Your Majesty. Arian has always wanted peace, even if it is something she is imagining in her head." Elena almost rolls her eyes. Arian has not developed a relationship with anyone other than the Grand Concubine since she has been here, making sure to remind the other concubines that she is their superior. "By mingling with my enemy? I am thinking she is picking a side, and that side isn't mine." A charming smile covered Glenna's face. "Your Majesty should please forgive Arian. She is young and has a misguided sense of peace." Elena eyed the woman. She can stand and make excuses for her daughter tirelessly and smoothly until the sun rises in the west. "I will release you now, Lady Penfield. Good day." Elena shut the curtain to her sedan and tapped the roof slightly, so that they could proceed with the trip to the Imperial Gardens. Glenna was left feeling uneasy. The Dowager was not pleased with Arian's company. She got back in her vehicle and shouted to her coachman, "Back to my daughter's residence." When Glenna arrived, she was barred once more, being told that the Empress was busy with the Dowager. She dug in her heels this time. "Very well, I will sit and wait until they are done," she said. The servants exchanged looks and let her be, serving her refreshments while she waited. It was 2 hours later when the Empress and Dowager Grand Concubine emerged from the small garden. Lady Penfield did a slight bow in the direction of the Dowager and gave her condolences. When the Dowager Concubine left, she then turned to her daughter, who looked at her with unveiled spite. "What do you want?" she bit. "And no bow for your Empress? I am your mother. You want me to bow to you? How preposterous," she exclaimed. "Stepmother, I raised you like my own, Arian. Show a little gratitude." "I have. You are now known as the Empress's mother," she said cockily. "You wouldn't be Empress without me, you stupid girl. What on earth are you doing becoming chummy with the Dowager Grand Concubine? Have you no common sense? Even the other concubines who were once close to her have given her a wide berth," she whispered harshly. Arian's temper flared. "You did not make me Empress. I told you what to say, when to say, and how to say. I made sure you seemed interesting, strong, and sweet, when you are nothing more than a pampered brat. Now back to the important topic. What are you doing with the Dowager Grand?" "We have much in common," she answered cheekily. Glenna releases a dry laugh. "Oh, if only your sister Asha was 5 years older, she would have been here, not you." She looked deeply at her daughter. "You make it a point to remind everyone that you are Empress, but you claim to have much in common with an old concubine. How much can you lower yourself?" "Shut up!" A burst of anger escaped from Arian. "No! You shut up and listen to me. It is no longer possible to tell you what to do or say, but you should remember not to embarrass me and your father. A senseless Empress is easily set aside and overlooked by an Emperor. No one will set me aside. I am an Empress. My father is powerful. His Majesty would not dare make such a mistake. You are right about one thing, Arian. You are an Empress. Start acting like one and not a brat. Get with child. Cut off links with the old bat and serve your husband. You will not tell me what to do. Get out," she shouted. "Much obliged." Glenna turned and left. Arian had always been a difficult child. Her father spoiled her endlessly, but that has now bred senselessness. Aenor bowed in front of the Dowager Empress. "You called me, Your Majesty," she murmured in a respectful tone. Elena bid Aenor to rise quickly. "Yes, I did. Please have tea with me in the garden." She extended her arm for Aenor to assist her, even if the older woman was strong enough to walk on her own. "How have you been, Your Majesty?" "Well enough. I heard your mother has been suffering from joint aches. I sent a poultice I learnt from the mountain monks. It will give her much relief." "You are very kind, ma'am." A dry smile appeared on Elena's face. "We both know I am not." Your family has great power, your oldest brother is a good military strategist and general. The emperor needs such loyal and shrewd people on his side, you included. Aenor stopped, deciding to speak her mind. If my family and I are so outstanding, why was I overlooked for empress? It is precisely because of your family that you were overlooked. The Percivals would swallow up the imperial court and end up ruling Dumbria if you were Giroux's wife, she explained. In other words, my outstanding family let me down because they were so outstanding, Aenor rephrased. Exactly. You are a smart girl, Aenor, so you know I'm not here to tell you how smart you are, but to ask something of you. Which is, recently 3 pregnancies were announced of Lady Ava, Mariam, and Nicola. Before there was an empress, I would have been wary of asking you to do this because of your then ambitions, but now you seem to be more toned down. What does Her Majesty want me to do? I must warn you I will not harm Ava. She is stupid at times but a close and dear friend to me. Aenor seriously said. She didn't care much about the other concubines but loved Ava like a sister. A smile appeared on Elena's face. Why would I ask you to harm my own grandchildren? However, I'm asking you to protect these girls. Me? How? The ladies in the harem look up to you, Aenor, and you know it. Keep them away from Arian. She is the head of the imperial harem, Aenor lazily commented. That she is, but unlike you, she has a standing to lose. A son, born out of any of these 3 women, will make her nothing but a figurehead. The woman who births the heir holds the true power, Elena explained. And in turn, the one who controls the crown prince's mother controls the future throne of Dunbria. Aenor loved the sound of the idea. She had slowly given up amassing power by being a mother to the heir, but maybe she can still do it in other ways. What ideas do you have, Your Majesty? Arian has made a feast to celebrate the pregnancies, has she not? She has. Tell the 3 not to attend, and make sure they all be cautious during their pregnancies. I am to babysit? You are to look out for them. I will try, Your Majesty, but you must remember that these women have a mind of their own, so it will not be as easy. I do realize that, especially when Arian starts to get close to them. The lure to be that close to power will be too much. You'll need help. Lilla and Iveta, Aenor whispers. The 2 women were harmless and want to do good. Elena looked at her, impressed. Yes, those 2 will be perfect. What is in it for me? Aenor asked. What do you want, Aenor? Imperial consort. We both know that is impossible. His Majesty himself chooses an imperial consort, and when that happens it means he is declaring the Empress as incompetent. She is trying to kill his children. Isn't that incompetent enough? By those grounds you wouldn't be competent either, considering what you might have attempted in the past. A sly smile appears on Aenor's face. It's the way of the harem. Indeed, they say we will be having exotic dishes all the way from the east. Mariam squealed excitedly for the coming feast. Speaking of the feast, I invited you here to tell you that you are not to go to the feast, Aenor announced. Nicola pouted. But Your Highness, we were invited. Perhaps Mariam wasn't, seeing she is only a lady-in-waiting, but I was invited. I was invited too, Nicola, and I want to go. Mariam defended her position. Think, you stupid girls, why would Her Majesty be nice all of a sudden? She wants to kill your children. That's ridiculous, Nicola said. She is a hard human being, but not cruel. Just yesterday she sent a very good masseuse for me. Yes, because she really wants any of you to have an heir, making her role nothing but figurative, Aenor sarcastically said. Not everyone is like you, Lady Aenor. Her Majesty does not want to do to us what you did to Lady Iveta, Mariam said. Iveta raises her eyebrow in surprise. So Anya was right. Yes, and if you listened to her well you would be a mother by now. But I didn't kill your child, Iveta, we both know that. Aenor bit. Iveta and Lilla looked at each other, their past argument almost forgotten. Lilla was still holding back somewhat, keeping a bit of herself to herself unlike before. Lady Aenor has nothing to gain now in injuring any of you, Lilla quietly said. Mariam and Nicola both stood and bowed to the 2 grand concubines. Thank you for your concern, Lady Aenor. We have much to think about, Nicola said, and the 2 ladies left. Aenor took a sip of her tea. You are not leaving with your fellow pregnant buddies? She asked Ava with annoyance. Apart from Lady Anilla, you are the only one who has successfully given birth to a child of His Majesty. I will stick by your words, and besides, if I leave, you will not have any true friends left, dear Aenor. Ava said with a smile. Her friend was the only person she truly trusts in the harem. How did you do it? Lilla asked quietly. The question had few words, but all the women know what she means by it. I only ate food prepared by my mother. She would come to the palace every day and cook for me, all through my pregnancy. I kept away from anything remotely harmful, and never once did I think that I was invincible. She admitted for the first time. It had been a tiring 9 moons, but worth it in the end, even if the child born was female. Chapter 16. Anya's horse slowly moved through the town square. The clip-clop sound of the horseshoes was almost drowned out by the human noise and that of other horses. Her guard, Marcus, was closely at bay, ensuring her safety, which had been of primary concern since the prince's death 3 weeks ago. A smartly dressed military man on a horse was coming in her direction, wearing a familiar face. Anya's own face lit up when she spotted him. He got down from his horse and helped her down from hers. "Where are you off to, Lieutenant Grenville?" And looking absolutely dashing nonetheless, he pointed to the 2 dragon dagger emblems on his shoulder. "It is general now, Duchess," he said with a proud smirk. "Pardon me, sir, and much congratulations." "Thank you." He paused and looked at her. "I was coming to see you and Marjorie. You seem to have news. Please, let's proceed to the store," she said while getting back up on her horse. The 2 rode back and entered the busy store. When most customers cleared, Marjorie went to give Gert a hug. "Looking dashing, General," she said, already noticing the golden daggers. "I come with terrible tidings," he began. "I have been posted to the Terrenes to head the area's security," he said. Terrenes is southeast of the Dumbria Empire's borders, a highly unstable area because of the disputes between the Malua people and Dune. The smile on the sisters' faces dropped. Gert was a part of their family now, and him being sent off so far was not news most welcome. He was raised by 2 now-dead parents, and the Webbs, together with Tanner, have become his family. "That is the worst news possible, Gert," Marjorie said seriously. "His Majesty needs a lot of assistance in the Terrenes." Anya looked away, tears gathering in her eyes. Gert had become the brother she lost. He put an arm around her in comfort. He knew full well that she will be the most affected, especially with the severed relationship she had with His Majesty. Both Anya and His Majesty seemed to have gotten more miserable apart but still remained so, both always asking him how the other was doing. Even when he volunteered to go to the Terrenes, His Majesty was very hesitant to send him, but he was the best candidate to go. "When?" Anya asked with a thick voice. "In 2 days," Marjorie scoffed. "How am I to make a feast in 2 days? I am very good at everything I do, but that is close to making magic, Gert," she said, holding back tears. "I don't need a feast, just a hot meal will do. Gods know I will not have those in a long time until I find a decent cook," he commented. "Promise me you will come to visit," he asked them. "Of course we will. So much you will become fed up of us," Anya said. After pondering over the sales accounts and making inquiries, Tedric finally zeroed in on a suspect right in the Marble Palace. The servant who bought the embroidered lace that killed his brother comes from the Ruby Palace. He was almost sick to his stomach because the Urani woman was right. It was Arian. He was almost leaving the Pearl Palace when he ran into his mother. The Dowager Grand Concubine could see her son's agitation. "Son? What angers you?" "It was that bitch, Mother. It was her. The Empress killed Elliot." Hyra's eyes widened. "What makes you think that?" "I had gone over those sales records and combed the whole of Dumbria for the person who bought the embroidered silk. It led me right here to the Marble Palace, right to the Ruby Palace. I will make sure Giroux makes Arian's head swing for Elliot's death," he said, and began to walk away. "Tedric, stop," Hyra said clearly. "I can't waste time on this moth." She raised her hand to stop him. "Darling, I know you are upset, I am too, but you have to let Elliot's death go. For now at least." Tedric was confused with his mother's words. "What? Why? You want me to keep quiet when I know exactly who Elliot's killer is?" "Plainly speaking, yes, I want you to do exactly that." Her eyes were cold. Tedric ran a hand through his hair. "Your words are not making sense, Mother. I know they do not, but you pursuing this, getting justice, will not only have the Empress killed but me as well," she whispered. The last part was so shocking that Tedric thought he imagined it. "You? Why would you be involved in your own son's death?" "It was not meant for him, but for Madame Laura," Tedric finished. "The Urani woman had been right," he admitted again to himself. His limbs grew weak from the fact that his mother was involved in her own son's death. "You killed Elliot?" He whispered the question. It seemed ridiculous because of how dedicated Hira was to her sons. "It was an accident, a terrible accident," she said with regret. "An accident? By the gods, you are the worst mother alive," he exclaimed. The resounding sharp sound of a slap was heard in the room. The pain of it was hardly felt by Tedric. Even in his worst nightmare can he come up with a reasonable explanation why his mother wanted to kill the Urani woman, her son's lover. "I did it for you. Whatever twisted reason you have for doing it, I just want to let you know it was not worth it. Elliot was innocent in whatever schemes you had. And you think I do not know that? I have to live with my boy's death every day, but do you know what consoles me? Do I even want to know?" He answers wearily. "Oh yes you do, because Elliot's blood was shed for you to sit on that throne, to be the next Golden Dragon Emperor. I do not want to be Emperor," he said in a low voice. He thought his mother will quit with her ambitions, but she was becoming worse. Hyra turned away. Very well, then go ahead, Tedric. Run to your brother and tell him that I am an accessory, no, the orchestrator of Elliot's death. Let him have my head alongside his wife's. Do not speak nonsense, mother. I would never be the cause of your death. But when you say you do not want to be emperor, a title that was stolen from you, you might as well turn me in for my execution. Tedric stepped forward close to his mother, looking into her blue eyes. I will never forgive you for this, he promised her. Tears of what could either be joy or sadness filled Hyra's eyes. You and me both. She placed both her hands on either side of his face. Tedric steps back from his mother's warm embrace. What is your plan, mother? What I have been planning all this while. Make sure Giroux has no male heir until the senators begin to doubt his capability and continuity, while you, his brother with more than 4 sons, start to shine quietly and silently, she explains. He released a breath. I will not kill my only surviving brother. You will not have to. He will be forced to step down, but without any harm to him. She lied. Giroux will have to die. Elena will have to die. They can't have loose ends lingering about, and Giroux will have a son eventually. There are people who will always compare the 2 brothers, and, unfortunately, Tedric will always fall short, so long as his brother was alive. I need your word, he emphasized. You have it. The words rush out of Hira without hesitation, for the first time feeling her son to be on board. Tedric began to walk away when his mother's words stopped him once more. What will you do about the investigation, and when your brother asks about it? I will seize the investigation and tell him the trail has grown cold, he said, and left. I love you, Hira shouted, but her son did not respond. The smell of juicy fat drifts in the air as the choice, soft cuts of small spiced pieces of meat waft through the air. The small brazier is slowly cooking the juicy bits as Rolf turns them the other way for a perfect cook. Anya and her guest were sitting on the patio of her home with a well-set table between them and the small fire brazier. The 2 have been having meals together for the past weeks, and while Rolf was falling more for the green-eyed beauty in front of him, Anya's feelings were going in the opposite direction. Rolf was a good man, but as time went by she was sure she is better off spending the rest of her life alone, as the major part of her heart belonged to a man who belonged to the Empire, his wife, and concubines. Rolf placed a few perfectly cooked pieces in front of Anya and then for himself, and the 2 enjoyed the meal in comfortable silence. He was sure of what he is going to do tomorrow. He was meeting with His Majesty to report on the latest justice matters, and then he will ask for permission to marry her. His father and mother had finally come to the idea of him marrying her. The idea of their son marrying the Emperor's former lover had recently become very popular to them, that they are the ones who are now pushing him to marry her. It has been 3 months since Elliot's death, so enough time has passed to approach His Majesty about marriage matters. Giroux was absent-mindedly listening to his chief magistrate. He has 3 concubines with child, spirits were high and happy in the harem, and he felt sure a long-awaited heir was soon to be born. A movement caught the side of his eyes as Rolf bows low. He looked over to the younger man, wondering if he has finished his report and what he was talking about. I want to formally ask His Majesty for a betrothal permission, Rolf said finally. Giroux raised his eyebrows in happiness. It is about time Rolf put down roots of his own. Really? Who is the lucky woman? There is a slight hesitation on Rolf's part, which makes Giroux uneasy. The Duchess of Pinehaven, Anya Webb, he squeezed out. Giroux's heart dropped to his stomach. He jerked, standing up, ready to tell Rolf to go to hell as he will never allow a union between Anya and any other man to happen. Then a memory of him and his former lover flashed through his mind. Be fair to me, and let me find happiness with another man when our arrangement concludes. There was silence in the room, and Rolf was sure His Majesty will reject his request when a dry smile appeared on Giroux's face, and he extended his hand to him. Of course, it is about time you settled down and had a family, His Majesty said. With relief, Rolf walks over to His Majesty and shakes his hand. Thank you, Your Majesty. This means a lot to me. After exchanging a few words, Giroux dismissed Rolf with a numb grip in his heart. Everything in him was protesting this. Everything in him wanted to beat Rolf to a pulp for even looking in Anya's direction, but all he can do was stand back and let Anya's other man try and give her what he couldn't, the central part of his life. Rolf, with excitement, entered his sister's palace and grabbed her waist, spinning her in the air. He didn't even notice the other concubines in residence. Aenor joins in her brother's happiness, even if she has no idea why he is this happy. Will you share with me what makes you this happy, brother? But please put me down first. Rolf puts her down and kissed her cheek. He said, yes, Aenor. His Majesty gave his blessing for me to marry Anya, he said with happiness. Aenor was uncomfortable with the relationship between her brother and the Emperor's former lover. She sensed the passion His Majesty and Anya shared, and less than a year after the cessation of their relationship, she did not believe those feelings have ended. But seeing her brother this happy, she did not have it in her to tell him not to proceed with the marriage. That is wonderful news, brother, she said. dragging him away to a more private place. The ears of the concubines were preened, wanting to hear every word, and she will not oblige them, not when it involved her dear brother. "It is the best," he said with giddiness. When they reached a private room, she gently asked him, "And Anya, is she as excited as you about the news?" A smile masking her uncertainty. Rolf shrugged. "I haven't asked her yet, but why would she refuse? Our relationship has reached a perfect level of comfort, and I will be a wonderful husband to her." Aenor's smile fell. "So you went and asked His Majesty without her permission?" She said the statement blandly. "Yes, and don't make that face, Aenor. I know Anya, and she will definitely say yes. She enjoys my company as much as I enjoy hers," he said surely. Aenor looked at her brother. She does not know the Duchess of Pinehaven very much, but she could be sure that Anya will not be fine with Rolf asking for permission without her acceptance. "What do mother and father say?" Aenor asked quietly. This will not end well for her brother. They gave me their blessing and want me to marry her post-haste. Aenor, please be happy for me. I know you are not particularly fond of Anya, but I deeply care for her, and I adore her, please, dear sister," Rolf begged. Aenor forced a smile out. "Of course I will try, and do not be ridiculous. I do care for Anya. I find her antics very interesting." In the other room, Miriam was giddy with bottled excitement. She knew Her Majesty will be happy when she hears the news of Anya's betrothal. The lady-in-waiting has been working as the Empress's creature since Aenor warned her about the feast the Empress was throwing. Instead of staying away from Her Majesty, Miriam saw an opportunity to make herself useful to Her Majesty. Lady Aenor has no real power in the harem, so she decided to side with the one who had it, Arian. Her palace feeling lighter since Miriam's news, which she confirmed. She felt she can finally get out of the grip Lady Hyra had put her under. "Good day, Lady Hyra," Arian said while throwing herself on the couch. The Dowager Grand Concubine raised an eyebrow while she dealt the cards she was playing with her lady's maid. She can tell Arian is more relieved and thought she can detach herself from their arrangement after the rumors of Anya's impending marriage. "How is this a good day?" "I still lack my dear son Elliot," she reminded. Arian rolls her eyes. Hera used Elliot like a leash on Arian. "It is a good day, my lady. Didn't you hear the happy news of the pending nuptials?" "I didn't take you to be a person to get excited by this type of news," Hera answered dryly. "In normal circumstances I wouldn't be, but in this one, I am. My problem is being gotten rid of." Hera chuckled. "Haven't you heard of the saying, do not count your chickens before they have hatched? Anya is getting married. His Majesty has approved the union. That is an unhatched egg, Empress. Either way, it seems she will not be a problem. When I think of it, she never has. Oh, poor young child. I'm guessing you have never heard of Aldridge's Law." There is a blank look on Arian's face. Hera releases a deep, tired breath while putting her cards down and turning her attention to the young Empress. Aldridge was an emperor 200 years ago. He is an ancestor of the current emperor. He failed to produce a legitimate male heir through his concubines and empress, much like our emperor today, but there was a woman who wasn't part of the imperial harem who His Majesty one drunken night slept with. She fell pregnant and gave him a son. He changed the law for post-legitimization of bastards in the absence of a legitimate male heir. Do you know what that means? Arian's face went white. She was never aware of such a clause in their law. But she will marry Rolf. Her whiny voice came out. "Unhatched egg, my dear, unhatched egg." Hera got back to her cards. "Now leave me. I will call you with further instructions. We have immediate problems with the pregnant concubines." Arian wanted to lash out at being dismissed like an errant child and not an empress. But she knows Hera owns her, and all she can do is quietly stand and leave. What irked her the most was the smirk on the lady's maid's face. Rolf turned up at Anya's store, surprising the two sisters. "Rolf, I did not expect to see you," she said. He had asked for His Majesty's permission only yesterday, and had not had a chance to ask her hand for marriage. Anya could see hesitation on his face, not knowing how to express what he wants to say. She nodded for him to follow her in the back room. "Is something wrong?" she asked after she closed the door gently. "I went to see His Majesty yesterday," he began. Anya's heart started to beat fast. The two have never talked about His Majesty. "And I asked him for your hand in marriage, and he said yes." He rushed over his words and got down on one knee. "Will you marry me, Anya?" he asked her. Anya's head was reeling, from the marriage proposal to the fact that he went to ask His Majesty for her hand, and that Giroux accepted. So he really had moved on from her. "I will make you very happy, Anya, and I will put you first. You went to ask for his permission before mine. How will you put me first then, when you can't even do it now?" "What are you saying?" he asked, confused. "I am saying you are being quite inconsiderate and presumptuous, Rolf. It's like you thought it was obvious. I will say yes. Why would you say no?" Rolf was confused why Anya would refuse him. A lot of noble young virgin women want him. He might have understood it before she slept with His Majesty, but she will hardly get a better proposal now that His Majesty has used and tossed her aside. A smile covered Anya's face. You are a good friend, Rolf. Let's not ruin it with this marriage. Rolf slowly got up, a dent in his pride apparent. Are you sure about this, Anya? I will give you the respectability you need. I come from a noble family. Do you know what they call you? They will not call you an imperial slut once you marry me. Think about it carefully, Anya. Respectability? So you will be doing me a favor? I don't need respectability, Rolf. They call me a slut? So be it, I don't care, I never have. What surprises me, however, is that you see me as they do. You feel more superior in family and birth to me, but I am a duchess, higher than your high family. You should leave. Anya, I did not mean it. Anya cuts him off by raising her hand. As I said, Rolf, you are a good friend. You will leave, and we will forget we had this conversation, and that you asked for His Majesty's permission for a marriage to me that I did not approve of. Regret of his earlier angry words hit Rolf. He nodded with a sorry look and opened the door. Outside he found Anya's brother-in-law leaning on the counter with her sister. It is obvious that they were overhearing the conversation the two had from the disgusted look on Marjorie's face. A customer walked in and began to walk around the store as Anya walked out of the storeroom. Rolf leaves the front door without a word. Are you all right, Anya? I can make him bleed for you, Tanner asked. Anya began to fold some bolts of material, tears falling from her eyes not because of the argument she has just had with Rolf, but that Giroux was done with her. It's been days since her argument with Rolf, when Imperial Guard stood outside the Web Mercantile and two ladies walk in. One of them is Lila, and the other her lady's maid. When Anya saw the concubine, she bowed with a smile mirroring the woman's actions. You look well, Anya, Lila said while taking Anya's hands affectionately. So do you. How is life in the Imperial harem? Anya asked. Adventurous as usual. She answered, looking around, and when she saw a deep pink satin, she walked over to it and ran her hand over it. This is magnificent, she comments, and Anya smiled. Lila had her lady's maid open the box. She reveals a green glass-like bulb with a pipe. Next to it is a small closed box. What is this and what is it for? Anya asked, looking at the apparatus dubiously. It is at that moment that Laura and Marjorie entered the mercantile and bowed to the grand concubine. It is well known you worship the moon goddess. Purists have this apparatus and use the leaves when worshipping to enhance their experience, Lila said. The grand concubine's words perk Laura's interest, and she peeks over in the box. Her face lights up with a smile. This is beautiful, she said in amazement. You know how to use this, Madame Laura? Lila asked. Of course, my lady. Lila releases a relieved breath. Wonderful, because I don't. The four ladies laugh. Thank you, Lila. But what do we owe the occasion for this present? A blush appears on Lila's face. Your upcoming marriage, of course. A look is exchanged between Marjorie and Laura, who has been caught up with the news. I am not getting married, Lila, Anya said apologetically. It was all a misunderstanding. The concubine looked at her friend in confusion. She heard the groom exclaim in happiness a few days ago with her own ears. How? Anya shook her head. Telling the tale will only bring embarrassment to Rolf, and even if she is angry with him still, she cannot do that to him. It's complicated. Lila nodded, understanding Anya did not want to disclose the details, and respected her decision. A smile came back to her face. Well, what am I to do with this apparatus used to ingest hallucinogens? I don't partake of such things. Anya got the gift from the servant. I will gladly accept the present. It is a full moon tonight anyways. Lila giggles. Oh, Anya, you are something else. I can see you've heard the happy news. Elena looks at the smiles on her son's face. Giroux is confused with his mother. I have no idea what you speak of, mother. Oh, then I guess I should have asked you. What has made you so happy? She asked. I am from Lady Ava's. I felt the baby move, he said with a happy smile. A smile also covered Elena's face. Aenor has been keeping the three ladies safe from harm, and in 3 months a new addition will be added to the imperial harem. Seeing her son like this was a welcome reprieve, after seeing him walk around in a gloomy cloud the past few days since he accepted Rolf's request. That's wonderful news. I think we might have a few boys. I think so too, he said. What is the good news you thought made me happy? Elena smiled. Maybe it was best if Anya slowly fades away. She wanted to shrug it off, but her son has a persistent look of sadness on him. Anya and Rolf are not getting married. Giroux was surprised, wondering what happened between the two since he accepted the request. Why? Elena shook her head. All she knew from information gathered from Lila is that the two were not getting married, and Anya was calling it a misunderstanding. Elena was sure that it was Anya who did not want the marriage. I have no idea. Giroux nodded. This day kept on getting better and better. On that high note, he got up and bowed to his mother. I am off. Many things to attend to. I just wanted to check if you are well today. I hope you are taking care of yourself, Giroux, she chastised. She was always worrying about him, because he was always attending to one thing or the other at the expense of his health. I am. He kisses her cheek and left. The full moon was high in the sky, and as always when he saw it, he thought of Anya. Giroux swirled back the last of the wine in the goblet and threw on his boots and coat. He found his 2 guards outside. Get ready, we are going out of the palace. Yuan was about to conclude his day when he saw His Majesty resurface. He thought the Emperor will be resting, as he has not done that in 2 days, especially since he decided not to see any of his concubines today. Do you need me for something, sire? Yuan asked. No, not tonight or early morning. I will be going away to see the Duchess of Pinehaven. Don't let anyone know about this unless I do not come back at noon. Yuan nodded in understanding. Then I will tell the Dowager when that happens, Your Majesty. He clarified on the plan if anything were to happen to Giroux. The first person to tell would be his mother, as she is the only person he trusted implicitly. Giroux nodded as one of his guards brought him his horse. The 3 riders ride through the silent courtyard out to the outer palace, then to the small visitor gates, not wanting to cause the commotion of opening the large gates. Leaving this time, gentlemen. We all know the palace rules and curfew, the recorder said to what he thinks are 3 inner palace guards. Giroux lowers his hood, and the jaw of the recorder drops. He recovers fast and drops to a bow. Pardon me, Your Majesty, I had no idea it was you. Very well, my good man. We need to be let out. Of course. He quickly rang the bell for the guards to open the small door. The 3 riders stepped outside and followed the fast pace of the horse. His Majesty has set for them closely. Amaranth was about to close up for the night when she heard the sound of hoofbeats approach, and was ready to defend her mistress. She drew her sword, ignoring the bulging eyes of the 2 maids with her. She stepped outside, finding the horsemen at a close distance and 3 guards, all with drawn swords. Who dares approach at this hour? Amaranth's words were clear and loud. The horsemen drew closer in the light, and the 3rd man lowers his hood. The other 2 had the red dragon-handled daggers embroidery on their black uniforms, the Emperor's personal guards. At seeing them and the regal-looking man, the guards, together with the maids and Amaranth, immediately drop their swords and get on their knees, bowing. Where is your mistress? Giroux asked in a low, clear voice. Amaranth raises her head. Worshipping, Your Majesty, at the Little Falls. Just follow the path and the sound of falling water. Marcus can escort your mages. Giroux cuts her off by looking at his guard on his left. Remain here, then turns to the one on his left. Follow me but fall back. We will not be interrupted this night. The last part was to Anya's staff. Giroux followed the path and heard the distant sound of falling water. He got down from his horse and left it with his guard, deciding to walk the rest of the distance. He could see a small fire lit and a dark-haired beauty sitting on some blankets. Anya lit the apparatus and drew the smoke in just the way Laura showed her earlier. When the smoke entered her lungs, she closed her eyes and felt her brain begin to float. When she opened her eyes, she could see Giroux standing a small distance away from her. She looked at the glass bulb while releasing the smoke from her lungs. What sort of drugs are these? She whispered to herself. Anya could see her imagined emperor moving closer to her, silent like a predator. He sat quietly in front of her and just looked. In her mind, she was sure it was a ghost sitting there, but surely one had to die first to become a ghost, right? The last she had heard, the emperor was well and alive. She reached over and touched his warm hand, a slow smile spreading across her face. He felt real enough. You are real? She asked, almost feeling foolish. Of course, he couldn't be real. His hand covered the one holding the glass apparatus. As real as I can be, he said, gently taking the pipe from her and inhaling a large cloud of smoke himself. What are you doing here? She asked, taking the glass back and inhaling the smoke. I didn't take you for a purist, but I will admit, this is the best way to worship by far, he said happily, the drug beginning to take effect on him too. I thought emperors were supposed to remain neutral on which god they preferred. Anya mocked him. Didn't you hear? Emperors are only human, and we do tend to play favorites one time or another, so shh. He put a finger to his lips while looking deep into Anya's eyes. His half-dressed lover giggled. Your secret is safe with me, Your Majesty. She rose and let the white sheet that covered her fall to the ground. Before jumping into the water, she turned to Giroux. Are you going to join me? Giroux opened his mouth to answer, but Anya did not wait. Diving into the pool. He smiled, and without a second thought he stripped off his clothes, completely naked, and dove in after her. They both came up for air, and Giroux's breath was taken away by her water nymph-like beauty. Her whole body was immersed in the dark water up to her neck. Only her eyes and sleeked back hair were visible. She swam close to him, and he drew her nearer, urging her to wrap her legs around his waist and her hands around his shoulders. Her body fit perfectly against his. He then captured her plump lips with his own, devouring her like a thirsty man in a desert. They drew apart after some time and emerged from the water. Anya immediately wrapped herself in the sheet while Giroux added more logs to the fire. He was as naked as he was born, and Anya enjoyed the view of his well-toned muscles. Once he was done, he looked at her with a smile. "Enjoying the view?" he asked cockily. From his years as a soldier and his regular training, he knew how well-formed he was. "It's decent enough," she said, opening the sheet to let him join her. Their lips joined hungrily once more, as if drawn by a magnet. It wasn't long before Anya began moaning loudly in pleasure after Giroux embedded himself in her to the hilt. The pleasure of their joining was a familiar and missed meeting, both wondering how they had survived so long without each other's bodies. Both were taking pleasure from the other greedily and unselfishly at the same time. Giroux's tempo of thrusts alternated between quick hunger and slow satisfaction. When they finally drew apart, still joined at their cores, their bodies were drained, and they gazed at the black, starry sky, satisfied. "I thought you were getting married," Giroux whispered to her, her head lying on his shoulder, the smell of roses in her hair wafting to his nose. "I thought you were done with me when you accepted his request," she answered, turning her face to his. "I will never be done with you, Anya. The seven hells themselves could not make that possible," he said truthfully, admitting to himself for the first time that she was the love of his life. "Don't ever do that again then." "Do what?" "Accept another man to marry me." Giroux smiled and kissed her now warmed lips. "I promise to never do that ever again." The light of the warm morning sun drew the two lovers out of a peaceful slumber. They sluggishly put on their clothes, a sluggishness born of deep satisfaction. A small smile tugged at Giroux's lips. "What?" Anya asked, wrapping her hands around his waist and tilting her head up to him. "I feel more rested than I have felt in a long time, but somehow my body is in pain," he told her. "It's because you are getting old," she mocked, then rose on her tiptoes and placed a warm kiss on his lips. "That is a scary thought." He looked at the sun, dreading having to return to his daily activities. If he could only have a week of peaceful sleep like this, away from everything, he would be very happy. Giroux's horse had been tied to a nearby tree. He helped Anya gather her bundle of blankets and the glass apparatus. The walk back to Anya's house was in comfortable silence. 1,000 things were running through Giroux's mind, but all of them led him to one focal point. He could not exist another moment without Anya. Somehow, he would have to give her a permanent position in his life. They were greeted by the Urani housekeeper and Giroux's guards. After he helped her dismount the horse, Anya was disappointed when he immediately got back on. "You are not coming in to break your fast?" she asked. He wanted nothing more than to do exactly that, but regrettably, he had to pop the fantasy bubble they had built last night and get back to being emperor. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a metal tag made of real gold and bearing the imperial crest. Only one person in all of Dumbria possessed this tag, and he had given it to her. "Come to me. I know you do not like the walls of the marble palace holding you in. With this you can go and come whenever you want," he said in a low voice to her. He turned his horse and left as she pressed the imperial pass to her chest. Not even the empress had the freedom Giroux had given her with that golden tag, still warm from his touch. Anya was going through ledgers for the mercantile when a commotion was heard at the door. She was lounging in His Majesty's private living room, wearing only his bedroom robe, when Arian walked in. The empress was startled by the person she found there, not expecting anyone, especially since none of the concubines ever stayed over. Anya put the ledgers aside and slowly stood up, then bowed. "Your Majesty." The smile on Arian's face dropped. "What are you doing here?" "Guards!" She shouted the last part. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Anya said slowly while sitting down. 3 guards entered the private chambers and looked at the empress. "Throw this whore out." They looked between the 2 women. One was the empress, the other was His Majesty's lover. To incur the anger of Her Majesty was terrible, but throwing out His Majesty's lover was even worse. "Her Grace is the Emperor's guest, Your Majesty," one managed to say. "You disobey me?" she shrilled, making the guards want to crawl out of their skin. "Guards, you are dismissed," Anya told them. A look of relief came over their faces, but her orders caused more anger to build up in Arian. Arian was standing with her lady's maid when Olivia walked in with Madame Frida, nodded to Anya in greeting, and then turned to the Empress. "How can I help you, Your Majesty? How dare you even ask me that? This is my husband's home." She was shaking with fury, "And it is for that exact reason why I do not throw you out. His Majesty was not expecting you, nor did he invite you." Anya slowly walked towards the Empress, a woman who had decided to pick a quarrel with her for no tangible reason. Arian raised her hand to strike Anya, but she blocked it easily. Anya had grown up playing in the streets of Dunbria and was accustomed to hard work, while Arian was gently bred as a lady. Her soft hand was easily jerked aside, making her almost lose her balance. "Get out," Anya said, remembering that Arian had killed Elliot in her attempt to kill Laura. "You can't tell me that." Arian seethed between her teeth. "Do not make this embarrassing for you, Empress, but if I order those guards to throw you out, they will. His Majesty will give me a soft chastisement while he thoroughly enjoys my attentions in the bedchamber and order me to give you an apology." Anya spoke plainly, and the Empress knew she was right. Arian was not even supposed to be here, as His Majesty hated when people entered his private chambers without his invitation. She stiffly turned to leave and was followed by the two women. Madame Frida had many unasked questions. She hadn't thought Anya would ever come back to the Marble Palace, but now was not the time to ask her anything. The two maintained a safe distance publicly so that none of their enemies would ever use the other to hurt them. They walked out of the Golden Palace and she got into her sedan. "Your Majesty, am I to assume I must pause the making of His Majesty's new drapes for now?" Arian had completely forgotten about the seamstress. It was just a guise she used to enter the Golden Palace. In actual fact, Hera had sent her to get whatever information she could on the recently concluded Marble Palace employee review, wanting to see if there was information she could use to her advantage. As of now, only His Majesty had the full report. She brushed Madame Frida away without a word. "We go to the Pearl Palace," she ordered her lady's maid, who instructed the horsemen. When they arrived at the Dowager Grand Concubine's home, she was immediately ushered in to see Hera. The older woman could tell the Empress was agitated but did not put much thought into it, as the young woman easily took on that temperament. Just last week, she had become furious when her cook did not use fresh oranges for her breakfast, despite oranges being out of season. "Did you get what I sent you to get?" Hera asked about the thing she cared about this time. Arian pointed a shaking finger in the direction of the Golden Palace. "That bitch is back. I thought she was getting married." Hera sat back, relaxed. A part of her had thought Anya would be married off too, but it seemed those arrangements had gone down the drain. "I told you it wouldn't happen. So, I assume you failed to get the report, or at least part of it?" she asked calmly. Arian swallowed. "How could I? You would have acted like an adult, calmly proceeded with your plan. I'm sure she wouldn't have paid much attention to you, but I am guessing once more that you lost your temper, and everything went downhill from there." Arian looked away. She could have proceeded with her plan, but her temper got the best of her. "I will find another opportunity." Hera turned away. "This was your only opportunity, because now His Majesty will know of what you did, and you will be completely barred from entering his private chambers without his authority." "We have to get rid of Anya," Arian said. Hera scoffed. "You think I haven't tried that? She is completely surrounded by people very loyal to her, bloody Uranus." She cursed. All of Anya's servants working close to her were Urani. All of them had refused to be bribed, literally spitting on Hera's messengers in disgust. They would rather die than betray their own. "Why do you hate her so much?" Arian asked. She conceded her reasons, her jealousy, and the comparison that was happening between her and Anya when she was marrying His Majesty. She came out better than her, and Arian's only winning grace was that she was a noble. "She is a dislikable human being," Hera lied easily. "That girl had an agenda of revenge. She had taken down one of her henchmen, making her very close to getting to Hera. With Anya, we just have to be patient, then strike, not now. It will be too suspicious." Arian was frustrated, feeling like her hands had been tied. Very well. If Hera wouldn't help immediately, then she just had to become creative as to whose hand she would borrow to get rid of Anya. Hera turned to the suddenly quiet Empress. "You are too quiet, Arian. I hope you are not planning anything stupid," she warned. If Arian made a mistake, she might be set aside by His Majesty, which would make Hera's plans worthless. "My plans are never stupid, old concubine," Arian spat. Hera flinched at being called old. "Like the way they worked out flawlessly when you sent an anonymous package to Laura but ended up murdering my son? No one would have known that anyone other than her would wear that. There was no way to guarantee that." "There was, by sending it to her home, you stupid girl. Some of her gifts are sent there, but you are too clever to think of that, aren't you? You couldn't even get the reports, even now, you clever girl." She mocked. "I will get your damned reports, woman. Don't you doubt that. I will stop doubting you when you do something correctly. Now leave me. I am done with you today." Hera flicked her hand in dismissal. This part always stung Arian, as she was treated as nothing more than a fool. She silently vowed that once she got rid of Anya, the old bat Hera definitely had to go next. It was obvious that she was using her for her own personal gain. "Let me get this straight. You gathered all of us here today to talk about Anya's rekindled relationship with His Majesty?" Inor asked with unconcealed disbelief. She had begun to dislike Anya after she found out the girl refused her dear brother's proposal, but knowing that she easily got under the Empress's skin made all the animosity she was beginning to harbor fade. "You do realize, Your Majesty, that His Majesty has 14 other lovers?" Lila asked, indicating the other gathered women. "What difference will one more make?" Aenor finished in a lazy voice, looking down on the young woman. "Empress, if you spent the same amount of energy trying to have a child as you do fighting the Duchess of Pinehaven, this harem would have an heir by now. It's been a year since your nuptials, and your womb is yet to produce fruit." "All in good time, Lady Aenor," Arian answered. Aenor would have to go too, she decided. She could not stand the pompous wench. "I'm sure you didn't produce fruit in your first year." His Majesty had not been neglecting his duties to her, but a gnawing fear of the fact that she might be barren was beginning to build up in her. "I did, actually. It was a boy. A dead boy is no use to the Empire. At least it shows I can do it, unlike some." "Excuse me if Anya doesn't get under my skin. I was in the middle of reading a very educative book on sex positions." "You are a vulgar woman, Lady Aenor," Arian condemned. "Yes, I am. But haven't you heard? His Majesty loves his women with a hint of vulgarity. The imperial lover is said to be loud in bed and loves to ride His Majesty's cock while he attends to matters in his office. As for me, my mouth alone has brought tears to His Majesty's eyes," Aenor said to the many intrigued women. All of them had been brought here as virgins, and their idea of lovemaking was letting him do all the work. "That is enough, Lady Aenor. Lying down and thinking of the beautiful beaches in the Tyrrhenes will not cut it. But you are right, this is too much for all your virginal ears, lest you bleed from the education I'm giving you today. At least you should consider that His Majesty's birthday is in 2 weeks. A lot of dignitaries will be here. What you lack in bedroom skills, please make up in appearance, grace, and preparation." Aenor finished, then gave a bow to the Empress and left. Ava stood up, her pregnancy well advanced, and nodded her head, claiming to fail to bow. "I am off too, Your Majesty. I am feeling tired and queasy because I am pregnant." She emphasized the last 3 words, then walked out. "Do you need help with the birthday preparations, Your Majesty?" Lila offered her assistance. "Why would I need your assistance, Grand Concubine?" "Because His Majesty's birthday is not a formal affair, but it being your first engagement, I'm sure you can use all the help you need. Stay in your lane, Grand Concubine. I am Empress. I know what to do." Yvetta, who had been silently watching everything, raised her eyebrows in surprise. "Then it will be useless for me to say that should you fail to produce a perfect feast, not only will you bring embarrassment on His Majesty, but on the whole of the entire harem. Needless to say, His Majesty does not forgive tardiness easily, and this goes out to the rest of you," Lila said, bowed, and then left, closely followed by Yvetta. It was a day after the Emperor's birthday, and soldiers from the Department of Punishments were in the Pearl Palace. "What is the meaning of this?" Hira came out angrily. How dare they stand in her courtyard as if she had ever stolen anything in her life? "By order of His Imperial Majesty, we have come for your man, Janken Miller," Shepard said, holding the express order from His Majesty to arrest everyone found to have been mentioned in his report. The wispy man's eyes bulged out in horror. Turning to Hira, "Your Highness, you have to save me, please," he begged while being dragged away by the soldiers. Hira followed them, not believing that Janken had been stealing from the crown. First Tobin, and now Janken. It seems Her Highness's wall of defense is slowly getting smaller and thinner. Anya was leaning against the Pearl Palace walls. Hira's breathing grew tighter, and for the first time, she looked at Anya with fear. "You are behind this? Behind his corruption?" "Not at all. I just whispered a few words at the right time to the right people, and the investigation was launched." She clicked her tongue. "Have you seen it, Your Highness?" "Seen what?" "The amounts he stole. So much gold, I am surprised you didn't notice it all these years." A smile appeared on Hira's face. "I gifted it to him," she supplied. "Whatever he stole, if she claimed she gave it to him, he would be let go." A wider smile appeared on Anya's. "You have no idea about the manor, do you, madam? Where did Her Majesty get all that money for the large manor house, and not forgetting all the various expensive things he requested from the stores department over the years, things that ought to still be in Her Highness's possession? You gifted those to him too, to sell off?" Anya clicked her tongue. "That means it was you stealing from the crown, and not poor Janken." Hira realized she could not speak up for her right-hand man. The wretched soul had been stealing, using her position for so long. She would not let his corruption take her down. He just had to be left to die. How many more moves to get to the old concubine? Anya whispered close to Hira. "You've had your revenge. Tobin and Janken are gone," Hira said. "When someone kills a person, do you just cut off their hands and be done with, or do you punish the person as a whole?" "This is not over until you bleed, woman," Anya said and walked away. followed closely by her guard Marcus and an Urani handmaiden. Arian was resting after a long 2 weeks of planning. She had thrown herself into the Emperor's birthday celebration and hadn't spent time doing anything else. She had been on edge the whole time during the celebration, because even if things seemed to be flowing fairly smoothly, there was a lot of damage control being done in the background. 4 days ago, the Dowager Empress had been angry at the other concubines who had experience with this for not helping her, but the self-righteous Lila informed Her Majesty that her offer of help was violently rebuffed. At one point, Arian had been close to tears with everything that was happening, and pride kept her from asking for help, no matter how little help they could offer. She even had to sit and speak to Madame Laura, the woman who held an unmasked distaste for her. The entrance of Hera in the Ruby Palace surprised Arian, as she was the one who was always following Hera. Arian did not bother to even sit up from her inclined position. "Anya needs to be dealt with immediately," Hera boomed. Arian slowly sat up with a slick smile. Finally, Hera was speaking her language. "What did she do now? That bitch had Janken arrested, and she is coming for me." Arian raised her eyebrows. "What did you do to the Duchess?" she asked, surrounding the Dowager Grand Concubine. For Hera to admit that she had Anya's brother and father killed, because her father came across a treason plot to murder His Majesty, would be to admit her real plan, which would affect Arian's position. "She is crazy. Lies." "Try again, old woman. I had her father and brother killed." She said the truth. "You had a couple of cloth traders killed." "Why?" "Her father was a scoundrel who defrauded me." Arian looked intently at Hera. The old bat was still lying, but that was not her concern. After Anya was gone, Hera would have to go with her sordid secrets to the grave. "Very well. How do you propose we do it? We can't get to her in the Marble Palace, nor can we do it at her manor, or in the streets of Dumbria, where she grew up and is much loved. All I am hearing is problems and no solutions." Arian breathed out impatiently. "If you did your part and got me the report, Hera paused and took a deep breath, then released it. "We lead her out of Dumbria. There we will be able to kill her." Arian was paying close attention. "How will we do that? How well do you know the governor of Anzul, Uncle Poldrick?" "Quite well." "Excellent. The Webb's merchandise comes in from that border. Have them hold it there. I will arrange everything," she said with a small smile. Anya ran the metal jar containing the poisoned wine against the prison doors holding Janken. Out of everyone arrested, he had stolen the most from the crown. Many were just dismissed from their positions, but the ones who stole the largest amounts were being held and would be executed. Janken looked up at the darkly clad hooded female figure and stood up. "Your Highness, I knew you wouldn't abandon me," he said. The guard opened the door to the cells, and Anya threw back her hood when he walked away. Janken was terribly fearful of the woman who had come to him, not expecting her to be the one. She waited for the guard to leave before she spoke. "Please take a seat, sir. Don't stand on my account. I can tell you have been adequately tortured." Janken sat down, and Anya sat opposite him and extracted 3 small cups from her coat, setting them in front of her. She filled them with the wine, and Janken looked at her in surprise. "They say death by being drawn apart by horses is the most painful. Being torn limb to limb, I imagine, is horrifying. They set the weakest horse to be tied to the head so that you can still be alive when the other horses make off with the other 4 limbs." Janken swallowed, fear of the death he was to face tomorrow making him break out in a sweat. "Where is your mistress who you served and committed heinous crimes for?" she asked. He only shook his head. He did not want to die. "I come with mercies. I want you dead by my hand, hence the 3 poisoned cups. Don't worry, it will be a peaceful death." She indicated the cups. Janken did not hesitate to take the first cup, emptying it, then the second and third. The wine she used was of the highest quality. Anya watched him drain all 3 cups, whispering, "Father, Milo, and Nigel," then looked at the empty cell next to him. "That is where Tobin died." Janken looked over at the empty cell. They never knew who killed Tobin, but they knew it was extremely painful. The smooth wine began to cause cramps in Janken's stomach. They say he shit himself from the pain he experienced that night. Janken held his stomach to staunch the growing pain in it. He felt as if his intestines were being melted by fire and being cut by blunt knives at the same time. "You said it was going to be merciful," he cried. "I lied," she whispered, while standing up from the ground. Janken began to howl out in pain, making the other prisoners shut their ears from the sounds. Anya stood in the cell and watched him until blood started to exit his mouth and his howls turned to cold silence as his eyes bulged out, staring into nothing. Only then did she exit the prison cell, walking past the guards and greedily taking in the cold, fresh outside air, where she ran into a hard, muscled body. She looked up in horror at a familiar face, a face she thought she had left lying asleep in his bed. "Chiru," she whispered, her heart beating at the speed of the hummingbird's wings. The look on his face showed he knew the murder she had just committed. Why? Was all he asked. He had followed her after she left him in bed to this place. After questioning the guards, they admitted she also came to kill Tobin, another of Hira's men. He didn't take Anya for a killer. It is not an easy thing to take a man's life. At times, the deaths he caused while fighting in wars still kept him up at night. Tears streamed down her face. They killed Father and Milo. Blood for blood, she explained to him. Her explanation explained her reasons, but not the reason for the murder by Hira's men. Why would they do that? He asked again. Anya stepped back from his warm grip. My father accidentally walked on a treason plot the day of the Feast of the Puron. He left and came back dead. He was just a cloth merchant, Giroux, trying to make a better life for his family, she cried. He drew her closer while she wept, a lot of things going through his mind. So Hira had been trying to kill him. He didn't want to think that the assassination attempt in the Puron was from someone he knew. He had to be careful when dealing with her. However, she must have been working with other powerful people, and him going for her now would make the others slink off into the shadows again. Come back to the palace with me, he whispered in her hair. Anya shook her head. I want to be home with Marjorie, she answered, pulling away. A pang of hurt struck his heart, realizing that he wanted Anya's home to be with him. He nodded to 2 of his guards to escort her, with her 3 guards waiting on her quietly, to her sister's home. Tanner and Marjorie emerged from their bedroom after they heard a commotion at the front door. Their footman led in Anya, who looked as if she had been crying. Marjorie immediately ran to engulf her in a warm hug. Jankin is dead, Anya said dryly as she disengaged herself from Marjorie's hug and dropped the dark cloak she was wearing, numbly walking back to her old room and falling onto her bed, exhausted. Marjorie held her while she cried herself to sleep. When the 2 were knocked out from sorrowful exhaustion, Tanner gently threw a warm blanket on them.